Hey guys, Adam here with yet another Punch-Out repair, and this one actually is a Super Punch-Out. If you guys recall in the last video I did a Punch-Out from, I believe, ginch66 over on Clav, and this is a Super Punch-Out, also his. You can tell by the little security card here. So let's fire this guy up, and let's see what we have to start with. Excuse me. And nothing. Okay, white screen. So, the way this works is that we have a few boards here, and this is pretty much what it's like for the majority of our arcade games out there. You have a CPU PCB, you have one or more video PCBs. In this case, it's got two. It's got a video PCB and a back PCB. The video PCB takes orders from the CPU PCB. All right, so you can think of this board, the CPU PCB, as the master, and the video PCB as a slave. So the video PCB is just going to read from video RAM and then throw that onto the screen, whatever it may be. And it's the job of the CPU PCB to fill that RAM with useful information, characters and sprites and all that good stuff. And I'm not seeing anything on the screen. If the CPU PCB wasn't doing its job and wasn't able to write to the RAM, the video PCB doesn't know that. It's still going to read whatever is in the video RAM and display it on the screen. So if the CPU PCB isn't doing its job, then what would be in the RAM? It would be just garbage. And so I should be seeing something on the screen. I should be seeing at least garbage. And a lot of guys have sent me pictures. Hey, what's going on with my PCB? And the picture's just garbage. And I can instantly tell at that point it's a CPU PCB issue. But we're not seeing that here. We're actually seeing a white screen. So what I think is happening is we're probably not even getting sync or color being sent out to the monitor. Because I should see garbage, I should see something. Even if I didn't have sync, I would see random colors kind of splashing around as the monitor is trying to get sync. And I'm not seeing any of that here. So I actually think it might be a clock issue. Because if the video PCB doesn't have a clock, then it can't send garbage to the screen, or anything to the screen for that matter. So I think what I'm going to do is hook up my logic probe and just start poking around at the clock circuitry. The clock circuitry is generated in the upper corner here of the CPU PCB. You can see we got the 8 megahertz crystal, and we got some inverters here. So it's basically just creating a clock that gets fed right to, there it is right there. That's the clock on the CPU. And then likewise, that signal gets sent to that clock rather gets used to generate subclocks, slower clocks that get used on the video PCB and the back PCB. So anyway, I think we're going to start here to make sure we have a good clock. If we do have a good clock, then maybe downstream, maybe that clock isn't getting divided properly and we're losing a clock somewhere in the video PCB. But we don't know. So let's get started. Let's hook up the logic probe and we'll start from there. Alright, so I got my logic probe here and we're going to look at 6E, which I believe is right here next to the little daughter card here. So let's take a look at, looking over my shoulder, 5 and 6. So here's 5, low, all the time. He's not toggling, so that's not good. What's the output look like? It should be high all the, oh, so it's low all the time. So this is an inverter, and it should be inverting the signal here. So even if the clock's not running, and this input 5 is a low, the output should be a high, and it's not. It's also a low, so this guy is suspect. Let's take a look at another set of inputs, 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3. And so this is floating. Now this, I believe, what's the output look like? Low. So this actually comes from the oscillator. This comes from the crystal right here, 8 megahertz crystal. And so there may be more than one issue going on here because I should see something going on here. But it looks like it's floating. Yeah, look at that. It's just not doing anything. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I have plenty of these on hand, and I actually think that I have some 8 megahertz crystals. Yes, I do. They're a little bit of a newer style, but that should be fine. And so maybe what I'll do for good measure is just replace them both, because I don't like the fact that that guy is not inverting, and I don't like the fact that that guy is not oscillating. So let me do that. Let me replace these two parts here, and then hopefully we'll have our clock back. Okay, so there is our new, what is it, 74 LSO4, sorry, right there. And then our new crystal, which is much smaller than the old one. Let's fire this guy up and see. Okay, oh, alright, so we got something. We must have clocks because we've got garbage. Let's just double check our work here. So now, if I check that lead from the crystal, sorry, I'm out of frame. Signal 3. Oh, good. There's our oscillating clock. Very good. Cool. So we have a clock because we can see garbage, and we just verified it. We just verified it. So why don't we go and check these ROMs now, because if the program's not running correctly, then obviously the game's not going to run, and you'll get stuff like this. And so something's definitely going on with the CPU PCB. So let's go ahead and verify that the CPU can get access to all the ROMs and RAMs, and we'll go from there. Now, in the past, I've had mixed results with Super Punchout PCBs because of the security card here. Some of these parts are proprietary and you can't get them anymore, and there's all sorts of issues with that. And so I'm hoping that there's nothing wrong with the security card and we can get this working. If there is issues with this, I'm very, very limited in what I can do. You can see all the part numbers are scratched off, and so some of this, what's going on, is a mystery. This is obviously still a Z80. But there's some stuff that they're doing here, and this has not really been fully reverse engineered by myself, and so I'm very limited to what I can do. But I'll give it a shot. First let's make sure that we can read and write to the RAM and to the ROM, and then we can just go from there. So I threw the fluke on here to verify the ROMs and found that every single one of them was failing, and that's very unlikely. But just as a sanity check, I figured I'd pull them out and put them in the ROM burner so I can verify them. And I actually found what appears to me some traces that are messed up. Hopefully you can see it. I wonder if I can just zoom in a little bit. Like that guy right there. This one's questionable. And so I think what happened is somebody, in the course of removing the ROMs prior to this, probably scratched up those traces. And so what I typically do, and this is going to be a little tricky with my left hand, is I do use a screwdriver, but I go in this way and I twist it like that. Some people, if you go in like this and then lift up like that, you'll just dig right down into the traces and mess them up. And on almost every PCB, there's traces going underneath the ROMs because it's one big address bus that's going across and a big data bus, and they're all kind of linked together. And so there's sure to be traces underneath the ROM. So you never want to just go in there and start lifting up this way or whatever. I always go in this way and kind of turn it this way, and then I go up against this side for these pins and turn it that way, and that way you can lift the pins up. So anyway, I'm going to have to pull off the CPU PCB, flip it upside down, trace every single one of these guys back to the CPU and make sure, or wherever they go. Actually, I think there's buffers here. Now that I look over my shoulder, there's these buffers here. And so these are the traces in question. You can see the way they draw it in the schematic. They actually draw it like through, which is a good way of doing it. This is the, what is this, the address bus? This is the address bus. It hits this ROM, and it passes through and hits all these other ROMs, keeps going, hits the RAM and all that other stuff. So the data bus is down here, and it does the same thing. You can see the data bus here, and the address bus. Both of those are buried underneath these chips, so I'll have to verify every single one of those guys. What a pain, but we'll be back. Sure enough, I found something suspicious. So I started over here on the top, address bit 0, and just worked my way down. All these actually check out okay. I'm down now to address bit 10. Now 10 is hooked up to 7 on 6K, and then it's also hooked up to pin 21 on the ROMs. So I have my ground lead over on 7 of 6K, and then I believe 21 is somewhere in this area. Let's see if I can do this here. Look at that, first try. And so that's pin 21, looking good, looking good. Nothing. So, looks like it gets traced over here and then goes all the way across. And hopefully I can show you guys this. If you look really close, you guys see that right there? That's the trace. And it's messed up. Oh, went too far. See that I got greedy. I tried to zoom in too much. But that's the trace right there. Now I know I have other traces. Like I said, there was that one down there. So I'll have to just keep going here, but I just thought I would show you guys what I discovered here. I have to finish up the address bus, and I'm nearly done. I'm on bit 10 of 16, or 15 rather. And then I have to go down and do the data bus as well. And so, yeah, I'll probably have to flip this board over and do some trace rework underneath. But anyway, we're almost done, so let's just keep pushing here. Alright, so I redid those broken traces there, put everything back together. I don't suspect it'll actually run because we still have that punch-out ROM in there. But I'm actually curious just to see what it will do. Oh, look at that! It's doing something. It's playing the music. Interesting. Okay. We'll let it play through. I'm actually curious to see what will happen. What is this? Tull, neck, and duck tunkles. What else we got? Nothing's changed there. You can kind of make out the outline of that guy, bear hugger, I think he is. Yeah, so we definitely got some issues here. But I'm not even going to really dig into interconnects or anything like that. You can get similar issues like this if the CPU board cannot talk properly to the video PCB. But I suspect it's probably something with the ROMs right now. I just wanted to kind of see what was going on here. I'm surprised it actually runs if it has the bad ROM in it. Exactly. Okay, that's what I was hoping for, that it would just reboot. What happens is it's trying to run a program, and eventually it's going to get to a point in this ROM that doesn't make sense, and the watchdog goes off and it resets the whole game, and that's just what we saw. So anyway, I'm going to pull all these. I'm going to throw them in the ROM burner. We're going to verify them, and we're going to reprogram this guy because I don't think he belongs. And then hopefully we'll start making a little bit more progress. All right. Well, we got farther. I replaced the ROM in question, verified them all. All the other ones were in good shape, and now we're seeing this. I think this is a data problem from the CPU board to the video board. And let me let it get past this part to where you actually see the characters again, and I'll explain why. Alright, so let's see. There's our guy. So you can see how he's all scrambled. Now his position looks okay, but the data looks kind of messed up there, and you can see this guy up in the corner. We'll ignore him for now. If we look at the upper monitor, same deal, right? So the position of these guys is okay. There's some bordering and some text that's supposed to be there. Position looks good. The data itself looks bad, and so I think that is a problem with the data bus. So there's an address and a data bus that gets sent over from the CPU PCB to the video PCB. Actually, you can see it here on the schematic. So this is the CPU PCB, and let me just move this aside for a second. And so data gets stored in the RAMs over here, and then it gets sent over to the video PCB through here. So this is the data, and this is the address. I think the address is okay. I think that based on the position that we're seeing on the screen, the address is okay. The address basically dictates where stuff is going to end up on the screen when you're looking at it. How it looks is dependent on the data. So that's where I think we have an issue. Now, these two guys get sent over to the video PCB, which I have right here, and they show up here and here. So this is the data, and then down here is the address, and they end up going to this whole side of the PCB, and then drive the logic. So I'm going to start honing it on the data. We'll trace that guy out. We'll make sure everything looks clean here, and make sure it's not like an edge connector issue. I think we've seen issues with that in the past. I think the very first Punch-Out video I ever did actually had a data issue, and that was John Jacobson's PCB. So anyway, we'll check it out here, and then we'll follow it down and see where it ends up. It probably hits some drivers, and then feeds both of the opponent sprites and then your player sprites here. And so anyway, that's what we're going to start with, and then hopefully we can figure out what's going on, because we can't play this. I mean, look at this. This is garbage. Okay, so lots going on here. So this chip that I'm probing is this guy right here, and as I mentioned earlier, this is the guy that drives data to the video PCB and the back PCB from the CPU one. And I'm probing him just to make sure that things are working okay, and I'm seeing something interesting. So the way this works is you've got all the inputs over here on the left. This is the D side, and then the outputs are the Q side. And basically the way this works, this is a register, or you can call it a flip-flop. When the clock comes in on the rising edge of the clock, and the clock is just like a heartbeat, it just keeps going up and down, up and down. You can kind of see it here in the waveform, right? It's going up and down, up and down, up and down. When the clock goes up, it has a rising edge, it takes a picture, a little snapshot of what it sees on the D side, and it spits it over onto the Q side. And then after it does that, D can change completely, can go all sorts of random values. The value on the Q side is going to stay fixed, okay? And so if we look to see what's going on here, our input is F. Right now our output is some other value, but as soon as the clock goes high, we see that rising edge. It takes a snapshot of what's on D and it sticks it on Q, and you can see that here. This changed from 4 to F, so that's good. But look what happens here. The input is 0, 0. The rising edge happens. The output is 4. And so, what is that? 0, 1, 2. Bit 2 on the data bus is staying high, even though this guy here is trying to drive it low. Now I actually replaced this guy. You can see I have a socket here. This is a brand new part, and it's still doing this. So what I think is happening is that something on the video PCB, right, because this goes to the edge connector, which is right here, buried underneath all this crap. Something either on the video PCB or the back PCB is taking that bit and it's pulling it high. Alright, so I think if we like just hit run here, we'll probably find another example. Let me see if I can find another one for you guys. There we go, there's another one right there. So D0, we got a rising edge, D4. So bit 2 is stuck high all the time. So I have to start, boy, I don't know what I'm going to do here, because these chips are all soldered into the PCB. I guess I have to just start pulling out the chips that are tied to that pin. But there's quite a few. That's the thing that's a pain, is that if you look at this board here, where's my data? Data comes in up here, comes down. There's a part there that it gets tied to. Where's the other one that I spotted earlier? This guy over here. And so there's quite a few. Any one of these guys, you know, even though it's an input, there could be something screwed up internally in the chip that's pulling that line high. And that's what I got to figure out. I've come across these in the past. They're just kind of rare. And the way that I've done it is to do just that. Start pulling these parts one at a time until I find the culprit. So it's a pain, but that's probably what we're going to have to do here. There's a lot of guys on that line, so let me go ahead and get started with that. Hopefully it won't take long before we find it. So, quick update, actually, before I went and dived into the video PCB removing chips and seeing that helped, just for kicks, I figured I would throw the scope on this chip here, this guy right here, which we saw earlier, which is what drives the data down to the video PCB and the back PCB. I wanted to kind of just see what that signal looked like, and sure enough, it was pulled high, you know, most of the time. And then, for whatever reason, I figured, well, let me see what the input looks like. So I threw it on the input, and here is what I found. This upper guy here is the input. Now, what we want to see are nice, huge swings, right? Like the one down below, 0.5 volts. But this guy here is kind of hovering in the middle. In fact, if we switch to accumulation mode, you can see it's going to kind of average together, not average together, but it's going to kind of keep redrawing what the trace looks like, and you can get an idea. Like this one here, it's very thick on the bottom and it's very thick on the top, so we're seeing a lot of cases where it's 0 and 5 volts and things like that, and you can see points where it sweeps in between. But this is really what we want to see. A lot down here and a lot up here. Nice full swing. Here it's just all cluttered in the middle, so it's not really wiggling much at all. Now what's interesting is that this is actually the input to this guy here. Now this is connected to the data bus, which goes to all the ROMs and RAMs, and I verified that that data bus is fine. I hooked up the Fluke and I was able to talk to the ROMs and do my ROM signature checks. Those came back okay. More importantly, I did all my RAM tests on the RAM, these two guys here, and those came back okay. So I figured this bus is rock solid. But what I didn't dawn on me was that I'm really just verifying the bus from the CPU to these guys, not from this point down to this point. And if you look, here's all the ROMs and the RAMs, and this is the chip in question. So this data bus has to go all the way up to here. Well, all we verified was really this Z80 talking to these guys, you know, the data bus that goes underneath here. So just for kicks, I figured, alright, well this is data bit 2, pin 7 on this guy, and he talks to, where is it, up here, data 2, which is pin 13 of the RAM. And so I threw a pin on 13 and I threw a pin on here, and then I threw them on my scope. And so you can see this is the output of the RAM, which looks gorgeous, and then this is the input to that register, which looks horrible. And so there's a trace issue between here and here. In fact, we can verify that. I have a little piece of wire that I have plugged into my scope, but let's pull this out. And let's just create our own wire from that pin to this pin, and then we'll see what happens on the screen here. This is hard doing this with one hand. Okay. Oh, so look at that. So all of our letters are back. Let's go to the other screen. And that is looking good too. So I think that's probably it. We're just going to let this go through. I want to see the opponent and the player guy here. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if that was all it was. And so we may just have to redo that trace there. Awesome. So I'm not sure about the coloring. The palette may be a little off. There's our guy, and he is a little off. But man, look how far we've come just with that one data line. So we were almost there. So I'm going to keep poking around. I'm probably going to figure out where that trace was broken, fix him, And then we're going to start diving into, I think the logical next step is the player guy here. There's some weirdness going on with him, and then we'll tackle him. Alright, so here we go again. Looks like we got some trace cutting going on here. So this is the video PCB. These are the opponent sprite ROMs. These are the player sprite ROMs. And it looks like somebody went ahead and replaced the socket, so that's a good deal. But unfortunately, they were a little anxious to get the ROMs out again and probably just used a screwdriver or something and popped them out, and they cut traces. Hopefully I can get close enough to see. There we go. So you can kind of see there. Those are buggered up on the left and the right side. And a little bit on the upper left, not too bad. But I already started doing some continuity tests between them, and I can see that there's traces that are cut. So let me flip this guy over, repair those traces, and fix our player sprites. So fix 2 traces underneath the player sprites, and we got them back. So beautiful. Now I believe the only issue is a color palette issue, and you really can't make it out here, but let me see if I can move on to a screen where you guys can see where we have some palette issues. So right here, I'm not sure about the background, for like where it says hit average and all that other stuff. I think it might be that it's supposed to blend, and like bear hugger, that stuff's supposed to be clear. And watch the little guy down here, the ref in the lower right corner. See how he's got blue around him? So that tells me that there's palette issues. Palette issues are all on the back PCB. These are your palette proms up here. And so I'll have to poke around. I believe I have the schematics around here somewhere. Here we go. And so the palette or the color information is actually stored in these RAMs. So where is it? This is the color palette for the monitor, the lower monitor, and this is the color palette RAM for the upper monitor. So I'll have to start here and trace them out to the muxes or the proms themselves to figure out if any bits are stuck high or low. But hopefully that won't be too hard to troubleshoot. And then this guy will be 100%. Alright, I think we finally have this one nailed down. So can you guess what it was? That's right, more broken traces all underneath these color proms, down to the muxes that drive them, and also to the resistors that end up going out to the video. So cross our fingers here, and we'll fire this up. I had the sound turned down so that it's not too annoying. That's looking better. Actually, up here was kind of like purple, and it's supposed to be gray like that. Exactly. Now, I guess the question is, can I switch to the other monitor? Let's see how this guy looks first. Yeah, he looks better. So let me see if I can switch over to the other monitor. Alright, because I believe the guy had some kind of weird, the referee had some weird shading going on underneath him. We'll let this play through a little bit. Alright, so, bear hugger. Let's see the ref. Very nice. Awesome. So, I think, actually, let me just do the upper monitor too while I got it here. That looks good. So, let me tell you what, let me flip this board over. We'll coin it up, make sure I got sound, speech, and we'll be all set. Okay, it's right side up. Let's fire it up here. There's our sound, which we know we had before. Let us coin it up here. Try to remember, where's my camera? There we go. There we go. And 20, 19, 18, 17. Should be counting down, and it is. So let's just count down. And then I can switch over to speech. Switch over. Oh! What is that? Alright. Well, I heard a little bit of fight there, but the rest is garbage. Ah, interesting. Alright. Well, the CPU that generates the music is this guy here, and he's talking to this ROM. We know that's fine. This is the speech synthesizer, and it's talking to this ROM. You know, with what I've seen so far, I wouldn't be surprised if there's broken traces under this guy too. I don't know who, you know, ripped these guys off, but you need a new technique, man. Because every single one that you've lifted up destroyed traces. I don't know. I haven't popped this off yet. Let me pop it off and we'll check real quick. Well, as we suspected. Now this one's not bad, obviously, because it protects you from doing that. But look at this guy right here. Broken traces. So, like I mentioned before, what you want to do is, and I know some guys take their screwdriver, they slide them under and they pry them up, or they even use a pocket knife I've seen and put them in there and pry it up. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get broken traces. All you need to do is just take your little screwdriver here, put it on right there between the socket and the EEPROM, put it up against one side. I have the left side here, you can see, and just gently lift it up like that. Slide it over. Do the same thing to the right side. Go over on this side, do the same thing left and right, and you can literally just pull it right out gently. So now I gotta redo this. Alright, so don't do that. Don't do that. Let me clean this up. We'll see if we get some speech. Alright, so here's a pro tip for you guys. So it looks like, I think all of these sockets actually, if I flip this guy over, were replaced. Actually not all of them, but these two that I'm having issues with were replaced, as well as a couple other ones. Now, when you replace a socket, and I think in one of my other videos I go through how to get all the pins out and clean it up nice and everything like that. When you go ahead and put the fresh socket in, don't flip it over, okay? Don't flip it over like this and then just solder the pins. Because what happens is the solder can go through the hole and then kind of mushroom out the other side, all right? If you just keep feeding in solder, it may look like, you know, that it's going in just fine, and it is, but when it gets to the other side and hits the back side of that socket, it pools. And what I found is that there are shorts between these pins from the guy who did the previous repair. So what I do is I go ahead and I put the socket in, and then I hold the board vertically like that, okay? And that way I can just go down the rows with my soldering iron and solder, and you just need to hit it a little bit. You can tell when you've got enough solder. Just move on to the next guy. Don't just sit there and keep pouring solder into it. But because it's held this way, it's far less likely that the solder is going to go inside and then start mushrooming them out on, you know, this side of the PCB. All right. So a quick little tip for you guys. I'm going to get a new socket. We're going to put it all back together here and then fire her up. Alright, there's the finished product. So we got our new sockets in there, all nice and snug. Let's fire this guy up. And coin it up here. Number 8. And this guy over here. Should be counting down. Yes, it is. Alright. Hopefully this will work. We switch it over to voice. Yay! Canadian bear hugger. Very good. Fight. Awesome. So yeah, I think what we can take away from this one is just take your time. Take your time when you're pulling these sockets out. Do like I said with the screwdriver. Just work on one side of the chip and then work on the other side, and it should be not a problem. Lots of weird issues with this one. Mostly cut traces, but we did have some stuff in the beginning with the clocks. It's funny, this is actually weeks after I did the start of this video, just because of work and everything. I actually forgot some of the other steps that we had. I can see a new crystal here and some other stuff. So now I remember we had clock issues and other things like that. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. Another success story. So cracks me up every time. Awesome. So I guess that'll do it. God bless you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys, and hey, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and check out some of my other videos on arcade game repair. Oh, seriously?